Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, during the Clinton years, Washington was telling the American people that we had a budget surplus and we were paying down the debt. After a number of months of bragging about this budget surplus we had and how much we were paying down the debt, we had to raise the debt limit ceiling. Now, I asked our leadership, isn't it going to be a little difficult to explain to the American people why we have to raise the debt limit ceiling if for these many months we have been paying down the debt? Why would you have to raise the debt limit ceiling if you've lowered the debt? Well, you may not be surprised that what comes out of Washington is not always altogether truthful. I have a little chart here that helps to explain what happened and why we had to raise the debt limit ceiling when we had a so-called budget surplus and we're telling the American people that we were paying down the debt. Now, what we were doing, we had surpluses in Social Security and we had surpluses in Medicare, and we had a lockbox. You may remember the lockbox. We had a lockbox on Social Security and Medicare surpluses. And the lockbox says that you couldn't transfer those monies to the general treasury, that you had to pay down the public debt with those monies. And so what we did was to take the surpluses from the Social Security Trust Fund and the Medicare Trust Fund, and there were surpluses there, and we paid down the public debt. But for every dollar we paid down the public debt, we incurred another dollar debt in the trust funds. And you see, the national debt, the debt that really counts, is the sum of the public debt and the trust fund debt. So if you simply decrease the public debt by increasing the trust fund debt, you have done nothing to the national debt. It's a little bit like taking money from your right-hand pocket and putting it into your left-hand pocket. Obviously, if you do that, you are neither richer nor poorer after you have taken money from your right-hand pocket and put it in your left-hand pocket. And that is what we were doing. Now, very few people know that there is a difference between the public debt. Oh, the public debt is the Wall Street debt. That's all those instruments that we give to people when they loan us money. The trust fund debts, of course, are debts that we owe to our trust funds because for many years we have been taking monies from the American people for Social Security and Medicare and about 50 other trust funds, the Highway Trust Fund and so forth, and we presumably are taking that money and putting it in trust for them. Is that what happens? No, that is not what happens. What happens is we take that money, and if we have any surplus money after meeting our Social Security and Medicare obligations, we then take that money and immediately convert it into a non-negotiable U.S. security, and we move it over to the general trust fund and we spend it. So there is, in fact, no money in the Social Security Trust Fund or the Medicare Trust Fund. That is really a misnomer. It is not a trust fund. I guess you might call it a trust debt, because there's nothing there but IOUs. Now, this year, for the first time, we spent more money on Social Security than we took in Social Security. We didn't expect that to happen for several years, but we still have about, I think, $2.5 trillion of surpluses in the Social Security Trust Fund. So we'll be paying Social Security for a while if we can collect or borrow enough money from other places to make up for the money that we took from the Social Security Trust Fund and spent. So for all those years, those months, and it was really a couple of years, we were telling the people that we were paying down the debt. And I talked to CBO, and I think there was never a moment in time, if we kept our books on the accrual method, which, by the way, we require every small business to do, never was a moment in time when the national debt went down. Now, another thing, the debt will always go up more than the advertised deficit. How can the debt go up more than the advertised deficit? The debt goes up more than the deficit because we make the silly statement that the Social Security surplus and the Medicare surplus offset the debt. Of course, if you take that surplus and spend it, it simply incurs another kind of debt. Well, I hope this helps you to understand. I just thought you'd like to know, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.